Hey guys, as usual, please like and subscribe if you like the content. Please check out any of my other videos, including the Book of Boba Fett Episode 1 review. And let's get into this. This episode starts off, I'm just going to go through what happens, and then I'm going to give you sort of my stance on these things. So it starts off, Fennec comes back with one of the whatever assassins, ninja guys to Jabba's palace. The guy won't talk. He's part of a legendary assassin group and is willing to die in silence. So then they drop him into the Rancor beast pit. And he's scared out of his mind, right? So he goes from like, yeah, slit my throat, I don't care, to screaming, oh, the mayor sent me, before the door to the Rancor Beast pen or whatever even opened. So that was kind of weird. So he's super like famous assassin. They don't ever talk. He's never going to talk. He's willing to die in silence. But then the idea of being eaten by the Rancor was, I guess, too much for him. I guess he's only willing to be silent if it's a quick death, but if it's a longer death, then his Assassin's Creed kind of goes away. It's just kind of weird. But anyway, so there was no Rancor in the end, and then of course there's the gotcha moment. We got you, Boba Fett, because they didn't even fully open the door. So anyway, they bring the assassin to the mayor, because again, the assassin said the mayor sent me, and they just walk right in with very little resistance. For a pretty ruthless mayor so far, it's weird that he literally has no guards. So again, this is kind of the thing that's happened with this show, and I don't know if it's a budgetary thing. I don't know what the reason is, but if you remember at the end of Mando, when they did the scene showing Boba Fett taking over Jabba's palace, there was literally like 4 guards. There was 4 pigmen, and that's literally it. There was nothing. I mean, if you were going to take over Jabba's palace in the past, there was a lot more dudes around. And the bar was like empty. There was like no one there. It was weird. And again, I don't know if this is a budget thing or what, but again, this mayor has like very little security outside of his sort of main chamber. So you can just walk right in, which is exactly what Boba Fett does. He just pushes a button, the door opens. Anyway, it's just weird. And the mayor claims, "Oh no, I never did this. This isn't my fault." And of course, then all of a sudden pops up one of the mayor's security, and he shoots the assassin before the assassin's able to speak or do anything, which of course creates this suspicion around the mayor. Then he tells Boba Fett to go back to the bar that he was in episode 1 for some reason, to get information. And of course, it goes back to the bar, and then we're of course reminded yet again that 2 of the band members from Jabba's sail barge somehow survived the barge exploding, which I went into in episode 1. Again, it's guys, they're duping you into being nostalgic and ignoring the story because it makes it easier for them to create interest. I wish you would understand this. It just makes it easier for them to create interest. They don't have to write new things. They don't have to create a new, neat, amazing band that you become attached to. It's just, no, we're going to throw the same old shit, even if it doesn't even make any sense. Even if they died, they blew up. The whole thing blew up. None of them survived. It doesn't make any sense. The only people that survived was Luke and a handful of other people. I digress. And then something actually interesting in this show. This is the first time I'm like, wow, this could end up going somewhere pretty cool. Is the cousins of Jabba show up. So it's a male-female twin, and they're being carried through the streets towards the bar, and then you almost get the sense that, the mayor knew they'd be coming there, so that's why he sent Boba Fett there, so he's, again, maybe in league with the Hutts. And then they show up and they say, and they did a good job of, like, the guys carrying them on this platform, and the platform's sort of bowed because they're so fat, and da-da-da-da. I actually thought that was kind of a cool visual, and I liked the way they looked and stuff. But anyways, so then the Hutts, of course, claim that this is their territory. It's a huge city on Tatooine, much bigger than some of the other ones you see. And they say, well, no, this territory's ours. And of course, Boba Fett says, no, it's mine. And again, you're wondering why he's able to just say that with all these people around. They're all just like, okay, I guess I'm under Boba Fett now. It's like a city of thousands and thousands, but I'm under Boba Fett. We don't know why. He just sort of walked in and sat on the throne, and that's it. We're all going to pay tribute to him, even though we don't even know who he is, and he's just some guy. Again, it's bad writing. It's lazy. So in the end, he doesn't back down. The twins sort of look at him. They kind of, they have this big Wookiee who I think Fett knew from the comics or something. They got that from the comics. He looks pretty badass. I think it's actually kind of cool. And they decide not to do anything, and they walk away. And that's kind of the end of the scene. So you obviously get the idea that at some point Boba Fett's going to face off against this guy but they don't at this point. They just kind of walk away, and then you're like, okay, but this episode has real potential. Now we're going to see how the Hutts sort of maneuver their way to get rid of this Boba Fett character, right? Nope. Then we go back to another flashback of Boba Fett's training to fight like a sand person. He's learning melee combat, which I guess we're assuming he didn't know how to do as a bounty hunter. From everything I've seen, Mando included, bounty hunters do know how to fight hand-to-hand combat. I mean, that would be pretty necessary, I would think. So the idea that he needs to learn this from a sand person is really kind of silly. It's just another trope, right? It's like Dances with Wolves. It's like, all these, any movie where they, go into a new area and then the tribes people or this other group of people teach them how to fight, and and then they go on to use that style. It's been done so many times, so many millions of times. So then there's this train that comes through. It looks like a train. It just floats above the sand, right? And it's like we don't know. At that point, you think it's like marauders or whatever, or whatever. And then they see sand people kind of on the hillside, and they shoot at them. And you find out later in the episode the reason they're doing that is because sand people are hostile. Because traditionally, sand people are hostile. I know the show's trying to make this. They're trying to say, oh no, this tribe's different. This group of 20 sand people is different than the other million sand people. So they shoot up a few of them. So then Fett thinks up a plan to stop this train from coming through there and shooting dudes. So he seeks out the marauders that we saw in episode 1, that the little kid showed him robbing the house. I don't know how they happened to come across them robbing the house at the exact moment when it looked like it was miles away, but of course just lazy writing. So Fett sees them at night go by and just sort of, I guess, guesses that they're going to Tashi Station. I guess he just sort of knows. You don't really know why he knows that. You're not really sure, because he's walking. They're on these speeders. I mean, they're so many miles away by the time he would know where they were. But anyways, whatever. So he goes to Tashi Station, and then there you see Luke's friends, I should say, from a deleted scene in A New Hope. So one of the scenes that George removed, or his editing team removed, his wife, I think, at the time, which was a good move. The scene's really cheesy. If it had been done well, it would have been a cool scene. But anyway, so Luke's friends are there again. The nostalgia tropes, Tashi Station. The other thing, if they were going to do Tashi Station, I would have liked to have seen them do sort of a more panned view of it, where you see maybe where people fill up their speeders with whatever they're using to run them, whether whatever it is, electricity, gas, I don't know. So Fett goes in there, and his melee training now is helping him take on these guys, and he beats them all up. It was a cool action sequence, and he comes back with their speeders. The sand people start taking them apart. He's like, no, we're going to use these. So now he's like, he's the guy, some random guy who got the sand people to not be so afraid of technology, but to actually use it now. Then he tries to teach the sand people how to use them, which was kind of funny. It was funny watching the sand people trying to jump from speeder to speeder and falling and stuff like that, and they had a hard time figuring it out. And the one guy tries to go forward and he reverses and he's gone. Those were funny moments. I was perfectly fine with that. I could have done without Fett smiling and being kind of silly. That's not his character. He can change, and he can be a more open dude when it comes to what he's going to do and stuff like that, and how he's going to speak and stuff like that. But even in this show, this idea of him smiling and dancing around, that's not been his character. He's been quite quiet, more stoic, and that's just not him. And you had enough humor with the sand people and stuff anyway, not knowing what to do and falling and silly stuff like that. So that was totally pointless and dumb, and it was cringy, quite frankly. So then then they go after the train with the speeders. Really well done scene. I love the way they did it. That was the one really good takeaway from this, was the action sequence was really good. I don't know who set that up, but they did a really nice job. So they take the train down, and Fett explains that to the drug runners, the spice runners. Of course, they had to do the spice thing, because there was that one line in the sequel trilogy from Poe's of the spice. Anyways, he tells them, if you're going to come through these lands, you got to pay tribute to these sand people. Again, to which I'm saying, sand people roll in, I think it's groups of 20, tribes of 20. If I'm this drug running guy, I'm going, who the hell do you think you are, bro? Okay, fine. We're going to walk back. I'm going to get a hold of my superiors, and we're just going to blow your shit out of here. We're going to just bomb you. You're interrupting our drug running. Like, this is big business. And if you think about it in a real scenario, some random homeless man inspires a bunch of other nomadic homeless people to take out a massive caravan full of drugs that's going to make some gangster or somebody a whole pile of money. That person's going to be very, very angry. And if you have this massive train thing with all these massive guns and everything on it, surely this person has other resources. And this group of 20, now group of probably 10 after half of them got killed and taking the train out, is not a threat to you. So again, they're elevating Boba Fett for no real reason writing wise. Why is he all of a sudden running all this land? Why is he all of a sudden everyone afraid of him? Why does anyone even care? Right? And he just says stuff, and then that's the way it is, and everyone just kind of goes okay. And it's very, they don't give enough background. They don't make Boba Fett. They don't write in his ascension, essentially, to the position he's in. He's just in it. And that's a big problem for me, and that's weak writing. It's lazy. But they wanted so much focus on the Sand People and the humanizing of the Sand People, who, for me, were created by George not to be this in-depth thing, any more than Jawas were. The whole point of these groups of aliens was to create tension when our main characters and the characters we care about are trying to traverse Tatooine. So these are made up tribes or made up sort of plot props so that you have tension, right? So, and you get that right off the bat in A New Hope. The Jawas are going after R2, and then the Sand People, and then the Stormtroopers. And so they immediately set up this situation where you've got kind of a hierarchy of detestable possible groups that you could run into, right? Whether maybe it's Sand People then Jawa, or maybe it's Jawa then Sand People and then Stormtrooper. And George sets that up right away in Star Wars in A New Hope. That's like the first thing he sets up as far as an alien planet and the dangers of an alien planet. That's what should have happened here, but of course they went into this whole big thing. So now that's the focus rather than focusing on the ascension of Fett and how he. And I'm sorry, but protecting a tribe of 10, 15, 20 nomadic Sand People is not enough for me to believe that that whole area of Tatooine has now been given over to him willingly by the people that live there and by the people coming and giving him tribute. I'm sorry, it's not enough. It's a piss poor explanation, and I would have liked to have seen something far better than what we were given as far as that goes. Okay, but again, they're lazy writers. They don't know, or they either don't know how or they don't want to get more in depth about what Boba Fett was achieving in this moment. So the leader of the Sand People tribe gives Fett a gift, which is essentially getting him super high and hallucinating, and that was going to guide him somewhere. So Boba Fett watching Jango Fett leave Camino, and then him in the Sarlacc, and it's like, why are you reminding us of the Sarlacc? That scene was horrible. Why do we need to see that again? That B-movie terrible Sarlacc scene. But anyway, so it turns out this acid trip was so he could bring a stick back from the tree he was hanging around during his acid trip. I didn't know Tatooine had trees. I thought they just had like a couple shrubs or something. But anyways, whatever. They got to do it right because he's got to make his gaffy stick. He's got to do the rite of passage with the Sand People. Anyway, so he has this huge acid trip, comes back with the stick. It's kind of a weird rite of passage. I don't know. It just seemed pointless. But anyway, and then he makes his gaffy stick. He goes through the process, and then they dance around the fire. All together. They're all Sand People. He's a Sand person now. Then he's officially one of them. They dress him up They put all his, just like sort of they were, dressing him up in his Boba Fett suit in episode 1. Now they make a big deal. They're dressing him up as a sand person. Of course, he's the only sand person that doesn't wear a helmet. All the rest of them are wearing masks and helmets except him. Again, it's just more humanizing. So now there's a little less tension when you go to Tatooine. Like, oh, maybe you'll just run into this nice tribe and everything will be great. And even though they weren't even really that nice, they took him as a prisoner. It's just so stupid. My question is, we're now through episode 2. We're through about an hour and a half of footage, and we still haven't seen Fett even try to return to his ship. I don't get that. He never tried to find Slave 1, and his helmet is constantly off. It's off like the entire episode. It's silly. And the saddest part is, Buddy's not that great of an actor. Like, I'm sorry, but like some of his faces and stuff, like he's all right, but he's not really that good of an actor. His helmet should probably be on him a lot more than it is. So anyways, it's a better episode than episode 1, although towards the end it got super redundant. It dragged on. And after his acid trip, you might as well just started the whole series off with this episode. You didn't need episode 1. And the Sarlacc pit would have been less cringy if you just showed it like this in like a vision instead of doing episode 1 where it was just terrible. And having said all that, this isn't Fett. This isn't who he is. This isn't his essence. All the mystery's gone, his ship's gone, the armor's gone, Jawas took it, of course. And so as a show, this episode was kind of cool in some ways, but it should have been a totally different character. It should not have been Boba Fett. It's a nostalgia fest, with people that are dead, band members of the Cantina somehow being alive. Now I'm actually thinking, I'm kind of nervous that somehow they're going to have Han, Luke, and Leia in this thing together, and that's going to suck, because you're putting them in a crappy show rather than in the movies. If that happens, I'm going to be super disappointed. And the Sand People being changed is just weak writing. You didn't need to use the Sand People. They just did it for nostalgia. You could have had some other species interact with Fett. Rather than taking a race of aliens that kills their own for not getting oral traditions right and tortures and enslaves and kills Outlanders. And look what they did to Shmi. And, we had established this over so much content that this is what they were. No, now they're not so bad. And it's just Disney Lucasfilm is just retconning everything we got in episodes 1 to 6. That's been their whole modus operandi since day 1, is retconning everything that we got. Main characters, side characters, plot props like the Sand People. Next, we're gonna have the sympathetic Jawa series. We're going to have, we already got in the sequel trilogy, this whole garrison of stormtroopers apparently, went against the Empire because they're humanized. That's so backwards, because what they should have done, if you wanted to do a situation like that, then you do a show about a single sand person that goes against what he was brought up to believe. That's how you make an interesting show. Like Finn had the potential to be amazing, and they never went with it. He's a single stormtrooper who defects. So you still have that essence of the Empire is so big and so bad and so in control. This one stormtrooper out of all those millions of stormtrooper actually defects, and you do a whole story about that. Awesome. This one sand person defects, has a whole other story, a whole other life. That's awesome. But doing this whole thing with the entire tribes and all this stuff, it's just crappy and dumb. And they're trying to humanize everything that doesn't need to be humanized. Anyway, that's my thoughts on this one. So please like and subscribe and have a good day.